Hello everybody, my name is Michael Lawson. I am a sea ice meteorologist with the National Weather Service in Anchorage, specifically the Alaska Sea Ice Program. This is a new thing we're going to start doing where I will give you an update on current sea ice conditions and what we're expecting over the next month, beginning today, Tuesday, September 9th. So in general, what we're expecting, the late season ice melt-off is going to continue. We're nearing a minimum sometime within the next 2 weeks. Now this is a local sea ice minimum just for Alaska area. The National Snow and Ice Data Center, they will declare their own minimum for the Arctic-wide area, probably sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks as well. We're looking for new ice to begin to form within the pack in mid to late September, and new ice to start growing along the Alaska coastline in very early October. So what we have here is our Alaska Sea Ice Program sea ice concentration map. The contours on here, in colors, are various ice concentrations from 1/10 all the way up to 7 to 8/10. And below that is a day-night band satellite image, which is an approximation of visible imagery. So roughly what you would see with your eyes if you were looking down from space. Now the one thing that you might tell yourself here is I don't really see anything but clouds, and that's mostly true. We are in a very cloudy summer season, which is the case normally. If you know what to look for, specifically right here, you might be able to pick up some sea ice beneath the clouds, but in general, very hard to see sea ice this time of year. So how do we produce our analysis? Enter synthetic aperture radar. Now what that is, it's a spaceborne radar very similar to the precipitation radars that we have on the ground, but it's looking through the clouds. It can see through the clouds to tell us where the areas of ice are, so up in here in the bright whites, and then the ice-free areas or open water is down here in the darks, the blacks, and the grays. So in general, our pack ice is confined to the high Arctic area, stretching down into the western Chukchi Sea. And then in the southern Beaufort Sea, we have quite a bit more ice than we are used to seeing in the recent 5 to 10 years. Pretty widespread marginal ice, even though there's some open water up here in the high Arctic. Lots of marginal ice left over in the Beaufort Sea, and even 2 or 3 areas of pack ice remaining here, here, and here. These areas probably won't melt out over the next couple weeks. So what we're looking at is more ice left over in the southern Beaufort, and all this ice, anything that's left over on October 1st will become multi-year ice. Here's a little bit zoomed in view of the southern Beaufort. We have 1 to 3/10 left over just off the coast of Utqiagvik, which is pretty rare in the last 5 to 10 years. There might still be some of this stuff left over within the next 2 weeks. That's one thing that we'll be watching. Our ice-free boundary right now is at Cape Halkett, and right now we have open water along the coast north of Prudhoe Bay. This area has recently melted out and might still have some ice that's below the resolution of what we can see on the imagery. And then another ice-free boundary from Kaktovik east into Canadian waters. Here's some of that pack ice that we pointed out is probably going to survive. Some of these lower concentration areas that you see here and here, they might melt out, but in general, much of this ice left over in the southern Beaufort is probably going to survive the melt season at that point. One interesting feature I'd like to point out is we have one piece of old ice. This is like a 1 by 3 kilometer chunk, and then a couple smaller areas here and then down in here. Now this is not just old ice, but probably some of the oldest of the old ice that's left over in the Beaufort Sea. How do we know that? Well, we're just approximating, but this whole area over the course of the winter had anywhere between 4 and 6/10 of multi-year ice in the area, and all of that ice has since melted out, but this ice still remains, which tells me that it is starting off much thicker and probably much older than anything that's left. Now this particular flow looks like it started to break up in recent days, but it probably will survive the melt season in some form. Just to give you a historical perspective of last year versus this year for the same date, this is our sea ice analysis. The biggest difference is the Beaufort Sea. Really pretty much ice-free last year at this date, whereas we have much of the Beaufort Sea is still covered in marginal ice. The Chukchi, however, looks much the same. We do have, this was an anomalous area of old ice that survived last year's melt season. The remnants of that are still sticking around south of Wrangel Island here. But as far as the western Chukchi and up into the high Arctic, much of it looks the same. The biggest difference is in the Beaufort Sea near our area. So kind of to summarize, main takeaways, we're looking for a sea ice minimum within the next 2 weeks locally. New ice beginning to form away from the coast in early October, and in general earlier than normal freeze up than the last 5 to 10 years, simply due to the existing ice that is still there and the weather patterns that we're expecting over the next month. If you want any more information, feel free to visit us at our website, weather.gov/AFC/ice. Thank you for watching.